Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the East Bay Regional Park District Board of Directors. Today is October 5th, 2021, and it is 1:06. And apologize for a little bit of a late start. Pursuant to East Bay Regional Park District Resolution 2021-09-277 and the Brown Act, as amended by AB 361, the East Bay Regional Park District headquarters will not be open to the public, and the board of directors and staff will be participating in board meetings via phone or video conferencing. And today, Director Waspy and myself are here at the board meeting live. We are testing out the technology in hopes of meeting all of us live next board meeting. The members of the public can listen and view the meeting in the following way. And Yolanda, would you like to let people know how they can comment?
Members of the public may comment in 3 different ways. They can comment by sending me an email at yburial@ebparks.org. They can send a voice, they can leave a voicemail at 510-544-2016 with their question, and they can actually join the meeting.
Great, thank you. Can you please do a roll call, please?
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, President.
I got off
Rosario.
script there for a second.
That's okay. Director Coffey,
Here.
Director Lane,
Here.
Director Waspy,
Here.
Director Eccles,
Here.
Director Corbett, Director Wieskamp,
Here.
and President Rosario.
Here,
Thank you. And members of the executive team, Jeannie Melandrin,
Present.
Deputy General Manager Alvarez,
Present.
District Council Victor,
Present.
CFO AGM Ocker,
Present.
AGM Chief Chiobaro,
Present.
AGM Kelchner,
Present.
AGM Cook,
Present.
AGM Johnson,
Present.
AGM O'Connor,
Present.
and Eric Fueller.
Present.
Thank you.
great, thank you. And I'm going to ask Director Waspy to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Since we are here, we can stand.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag
flag
of the United States of America,
and to the
Republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someday. Thank you. And I'm going to ask Director Lane if you can do the land acknowledgement.
Yes, thank you. Today, I'm going to recognize an Ohlone Indian for whom the San Ramon Valley was named. So San Ramon, as a city, is in the Alameda Creek watershed headwaters and in Ohlone territory. So this is an area which was Jose Amador's Rancho San Ramon. And in 1855, Amador, in a land case, was asked how the name of the San Ramon Valley came to be. And he said it was named for a baptized Mission San Jose Indian who took care of sheep in the valley. So this Indian was a Sisoyan Ohlone native person whose recorded Indian name was Usakasi. And he was baptized after Saint Raymond as Ramon. What Amador said was that later on they added San to the name to make it conform with other names that were given in California. So recognizing land in San Ramon and Dublin as Ohlone land, I want to acknowledge these Native American people who lived here for thousands of years. Descendants are working to preserve sacred sites and to revive past ceremonies and languages. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, any questions regarding the agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Director Wieskamp, is there a second?
Second.
Second with Director Eccles. Yolanda, can you please do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rosario. Director Coffey,
Aye.
Director Lane,
Aye.
Director Wasfi,
Aye.
Director Eccles,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Aye.
and President Rosario.
Aye.
Thank you. Agenda approved.
Do we have any public comments today?
Yes, President Rosario, we do have one public comment from Kelly Abreu. Kelly, I saw you when you came in. I don't see you now. There you go. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. The East Bay Regional Park District is a special district, and as you know, because you go to all these meetings of the special districts, and they're special for a reason. And one of the special distinctions that make them different is that their redistricting deadlines are different. It looks like so I was invited to do a careful study of by one of the directors of East Bay Mud. They told me how open and transparent their redistricting procedures are. So I went over there and took a look, and I learned a lot. And it struck me, oh, gee, this is all must be all the same as East Bay, the other East Bay Regional Park District. So the East Bay Mud had 2 meetings already in September. One about guidelines and redistricting software. I never heard the word software at East Bay Parks yet. So the software is really complicated. Be nice to have software that tells you how many people are inside all these wards or precincts or whatever. Then they will have, they'll look at different options and plans. Once a month in October, November, December, they're going to approve a final plan in January. They're going to have public hearings in February and March. And apparently there's a legal deadline that they say is mid-April. And so they're going to have the final approval in April. So all of that goes to say that I haven't seen any activity over here. Well, no, I did see a little activity. I did see some discussion of redistricting at the East Bay Regional Park District a couple of months ago. And it seems like the East Bay Mud is doing a lot in that area. Another point to note is that both of them have wards, and these wards have numbers. And as the director just pointed out, these the headwaters of the Tri Valley of the watersheds are very important, and that's how things like the Tri Valley came into being. And then there's other regions of the East Bay, the Tri-Cities, the Eden Township. The townships all used to have names. And all these things conform now with the natural boundaries of our natural watersheds and hills. And our regions are, there are some rhyme and reason to them. The communities have come together for a reason. And it would be nice if our politicians had wards and districts and that conformed not just to some random arbitrary numbers, but actually kind of tried to follow the needs and the nature and the makeup of their constituent communities and townships. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly Abreu. That was the only public comment. President Rosario. You're welcome.
I don't believe a microphone's on.
Do we have any other comments for the consent calendar?
We had we had question from Director Lane regarding item G and H, and I don't know if that was responded to. So regarding the authorization of quagga zebra mussel infestation prevention grant program application and funding agreements, Contra Loma and Quarry Lakes Regional Recreation Area. And the other item was same topic related to Shadow Cliffs Regional Recreation Area and Del Val Regional Park. Were those, were your questions answered yet, Director Lane? Or responded to?
Well, someone may have called me, but I haven't had a chance to listen to my phone messages. My question there had to do with the staff report mentioning there were 5 lakes, including Lake Chabot, at which we were examining boats for the mussels. But then the grants were only looking at 4 of them. So I just wondered what happened to Lake Chabot.
Thank you, Director Lane. Deborah Ocker, AGM of Finance and Management Services, and I'd like to introduce our acting grants manager, David Callboy, who's covering for Katie Hornbeck while she's on leave. And I believe David has some information for that question.
Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Director Lane. I can answer that question for you. So the cost of the Lake Chabot program is very low compared to the other sites and is our least costly park for the implementation of the quagga inspections. And we're only allowed to apply for 2 parks on each application. So this is the first year that we received 2 grants for 4 parks. In the past years, we've had a variety of combinations of 2 eligible parks, which included Del Val, Shadow Cliffs, Contra Loma, and Quarry Lakes. Excuse me. And these all have launch ramps for trailers to launch the boats. And Lake Chabot is the only hand carry in only. So due to Lake Chabot's relatively low cost, it was not applied for this past year.
All right. Thank you, David.
And then Beverly had also H, is that well? Or did that answer both?
They were the.
Okay, great.
They were both mussels.
Any other questions from the board or comments?
Did not receive it.
Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So move.
Moved by Director Lane
Second.
and a second by Director Wieskamp. Yolanda, can you please take a roll call?
Yes, President Rosario. Director Eccles?
Aye.
Director Wasby?
Aye.
Director Wieskamp?
Aye.
Director Coffey?
Aye.
Director Lane?
Aye.
And President Rosario.
Aye.
The consent calendar is approved.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 2, General Manager's comments.
Thank you, Director Rosario and members of the board. We have a great presentation that we're going to give today from our Interpretive and Recreation Services staff. And I think Mike Moran, there you are on the screen, is going to go ahead and kick us off. Mike.
Thank you very much. Deborah Ocker, can I ask you to give that control over to James Wilson? I'll be narrating the first 3 slides in the presentation. Thanks so much.
He should be able to share his screen.
Okay, James, can you bring that? Are you able to bring that up? There we go. Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, board members, General Manager Landreth, executive team members, and everyone in attendance. I'm Mike Moran. I'm the Regional Interpretive Recreation Services Manager for the Northwest region. Would you please welcome Jeremy Saito, Recreation Supervisor for Outdoor Recreation Team, and James Wilson, Supervising Naturalist for the Mobile Education Team. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to share a very bright story of collaboration between these 2 teams and their community partners that ended up providing something very rare indeed during COVID times, and that's maintaining and strengthening public partnerships by connecting actually in person and face-to-face during the pandemic. Next slide, please. Now, we all know what happened in March of 2020 and the road we have traveled since. So safety precautions, effectively shutting down in-person programming, interpretive and recreation services shifted dramatically into virtual and digital content to serve the public and our mission. Now, going back pre-pandemic, outdoor recreation and mobile education, these two teams in 2019, seems so long ago, served 130,000 people in person. And in 2020, during shelter in place, that dropped to 3,000. And much of that was prior to shelter in place. Next slide, please. There you go. Thanks, James. So mobile education and outdoor recreation have at their core this foundational duty of outreach to engage and develop ongoing, keyword, ongoing partnerships of understanding and trust. Now, those relationships bring and bond partners to their parks. And these partners are people that may well drop off during the pandemic and lose parks from their radar if we did not adapt and nurture those connections. The public, obviously through our increased use, they came back to parks. Schools are coming back. We've seen that through our virtual programming. Mobile education and recreation have indeed used technology also, like WhatsApp and Zoom and social media, to ease those connections with partners, but they did it, key difference here, they did it as a means to another end, and that is the gold standard of our business, to connect people safely, meaningfully, joyfully, and most importantly, in person to their park, even during a pandemic. And so far in 2021, they have served nearly 4,000 people in person, and that's a 33% gain over all of 2020. I'm going to turn it over to James and Jeremy for them to tell you how they made that happen during the pandemic. Thanks so much. James?
Great. Thank you, board members. Thank you, GM Landreth. Maybe, Yolanda, you can allow me video, even though...
You should be able to do that. Whoever has...
There you are.
Hi.
You need to stop. Whoever has this posted needs to stop sharing it, unless you're going to take off from here.
That's okay, because this is kind of what I look like, during the pandemic. So you can get that visual. So this is really how and why we evolved. There were three big main factors that came into play when we were working with in-person programming. And of course, number one is safety. We were following district protocols and then also our state and county protocols and procedures and making them work for in-person programming. And a lot of our programs were graciously funded by the Regional Parks Foundation that helped fund transportation and access to the parks. And so we wanted to make sure that we spent that money wisely, but also did it in person. So some of that funding we flipped into toolkits and some other things I'll share in the presentation. And then most importantly, continuing our relationships. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jeremy, to discuss our safety procedures.
All right, thank you, James. Good afternoon, board members and General Manager Landreth. I'm Jeremy Saito, Outdoor Operations Supervisor. From the very beginning, we took a cautious approach and made safety our number one priority for staff and for our community partners. During the first month of the pandemic, the district's COVID task force began developing COVID-19 protocols based on state, county, and federal guidelines. And then staff ensued to do their homework and stay up to date on the latest protocols as things progressed. We put a lot of research in that was focused on how to adapt programs using not only district protocols, but also best practices developed by governing bodies such as the American Camp Association and YMCA. A key to success for us was adapting programs to fit the guidelines of our community partners in an effort to maintain the trust and strong relationships we've built with them. As the color tier system was rolled out as part of the blueprint for a safer economy, we worked with other departments throughout the district, including legal, risk, reservations, and the COVID task force to vet our program plans, safety protocols, and the related administrative paperwork. Next slide, please. So through careful planning, staff were able to minimize risk by focusing on outdoor programming in parks and trails that allowed for social distancing. And we also minimized risk by following strict cleaning and sanitizing protocols. And then so finally, by June of 2019, we were ready to offer in-person programming again.
So this was a complicated kind of dance, but this is kind of what it looked like on paper. This is an example at when we are at our most restrictive. And basically what you're seeing is kind of a spreadsheet of how an activity was run. This was created by naturalist extraordinaire Claudio Munoz. And this is when we were at limits of no more than 3 family groups at one time at one place with a limit of 20 people all gathered at one time. So at no time were there more than 20 people at one spot. And what families did is they scheduled little blocks and they came for socially distanced little hikes. And what families did is they scheduled little blocks and they came for socially distanced little hikes of 4 rotations around Kennedy Grove. This is where this adventure happened with our Adventure Cruise Richmond Rangers. So in addition to in-person programming, we provided the toolkits. We used those Regional Parks Foundation funds and put together these wonderful toolkits. Some things that we thought about when we were putting the toolkits together was, what do we like about visiting parks? What do we like about the programs that we wanted to continue? And what are we hoping to get from these experiences? So a lot of these toolkits were all personalized to the experience and the activity at hand and made repeatable experiences for families to keep going out. Also, in addition with the toolkits were QR codes that sent you to our YouTube channel that gave you instructions on how to catch insects and how to plant a seed and how to do field sketching and a whole bunch of other things that families could revisit.
So here's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please go, Jeremy.
Thank you, James. And so here's a list of community partners we served and continue serving through the foundation funded toolkits. And so by the end of this year, we will have distributed over 1,600 of these kits. So with most, if not all of these partners, we provided in-person programming prior to the pandemic. So receiving these toolkits during the shutdown provided them with a way to stay connected to us and to their regional parks. And whenever it was feasible and safe, we provided in-person programs for these community partners, as we wanted to emphasize the continuity of the partnership and relationships built. Next slide. So shown here are groups participating in the Parking at Day Camp and the Community Outreach Outdoors program. In the interest of time, I can provide more specifics about these partners we served at the end of the presentation.
Another wonderful program we were able to do was our Agents of Change Artist in Residency program. And we were faced with unique challenges with this program since it was very hands-on. And in 2020, this was the only summer program that we were able to offer for youth at this level. And in 2021, Hip Hop for Change, our partner organization, was able to model the same program and replicate it with California State Parks at Candlestick Point. Another great program that we've continued is our Shine, Stay Healthy in Nature Every Day. We've been running this program since 2014. And during the pandemic, we increased it actually to twice a month virtually until we got back in person fall of 2020. And we've been able to work with the hospital and continue to provide programming with the families and food for the outings and access to transportation. It's been really a magical experience. And after a year of not seeing families, it's been extremely rewarding to see the parks that they visit virtually now in person. And of course, our wonderful adventure crew, our partnerships with Yes Nature to Neighborhoods in Richmond and the Peralta Hacienda in Oakland with the Oakland Naturalists. We were able to provide once a month family outings where they got to explore the shoreline and the parks and all the other places that we typically went with just the rangers. We got to go with the families included. We even got to do a night hike. So all this was just an incredible balancing act, and so many factors came into these plans, and we weighed so many actions against our intentions and efforts. And so we are weighing safety versus activity, comfort versus community, which is wanting to be in a comfortable experience and have the power of being together with whatever activity we're doing. So going forward into 2021, after this last shelter in place, we're continuing these kinds of models of in-person programming, and we're actually looking to expand with some new partners like the East Oakland Collective. And we're excited for what comes in the future and getting families back out into the regional parks and into our programming. And we've learned a lot from this experience, especially, the transparency with our partner organizations internally and with our clear goals, and remembering that original sense of fun that we used to have outdoors with all of our participants. And so with that, Jeremy and I would both like to thank all of our board of directors and our operations staff and everyone involved with these programs, and open it up for questions if anyone has any.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? There's anybody saying, Director Lane and Director Coffey.
Well, I just want to congratulate staff for hustling and figuring this out, because there were definitely elements of chaos at the start, and I think we came through in a way that means everybody should be congratulated. And in talking to a few naturalists here and there, it sounds like this was a stimulating time for you as well, because you got to learn a lot of new things yourselves. So thank you for the presentation and for all the outreach you did. There are so many people that we need to reach to. I hope this will help us increase our virtual and real visitorship in the future. So thank you.
Director Coffey.
Could you all put the slide up that showed the list of partners? If that's going to be a significant effort, I can put it off.
That's the page that said 423 toolkits.
Yeah. There you go, Director Coffey.
Okay, that just the brief moment I had to look at it raised a question in my mind, and that is that these programs were most obviously very much focused on the more urban communities and those with underserved populations, especially when it comes to youth. And I just wanted, as an advocate for my ward, to suggest that these type of partnerships could exist and are needed in other urban communities with significant underserved youth, in Antioch, for instance, Pittsburgh, for instance, and Bay Point, and you have a connection with the Ambrose Teen Center, so that's doing well for a partnership in Bay Point. But that's the thought I had as I saw that list, and obviously this was an issue for both resources that we have to devote. It's always an issue what resources we have to devote to very great programs. The Richmond Rangers work, as I used to talk to David about all the time, I wish it could be expanded into East Contra Costa. But I just want to advocate on behalf of my ward once again on advancing those kind of programs.
One exciting thing I noticed that was kept from that list is we're decided to scale up our toolkit programs with in-person programming. So in 2021, not on the list was Alameda and Contra Costa County First Five. So we got in touch with Contra Costa County First Five, and we're able to provide them toolkits, and they have 2 centers in your ward, and also Contra Costa Library. So we were providing kits to the libraries, and those 2 weren't on the list as well.
And I don't want to minimize the work that goes on in the visitor centers. I'm not meaning to do that. Big Break and Black Diamond put a tremendous effort amongst them into serving the youth of those communities. The shining example of that is how popular Mike Moran is and how missed he is in the East Contra Costa. So I don't want to minimize that. Those are very important programs. It was just my quick look at this list triggered the thought.
Jim O'Connor.
Good afternoon, President Rosario, members of the board. Jim O'Connor, I'm your AGM of operations. Just in answer to Director Coffey's question, one of the areas we're hoping to expand Adventure Crew is to the Antioch area. We're working with a partnership there and hopefully expanding the program out to that area. So I just wanted to mention that we are looking in that area for our next Adventure Crew expansion. So that's something to look forward to.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Any other questions? Director Eccles, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I just want to commend all of you on this wonderful work because something that I think a lot about is how can we expand these wonderful programs that we have to more children and especially children from underserved communities. And I think, you know, by working closely with partners and leveraging those partnerships and, you know, making our resources stretch forward, or stretch further, as well as being able to some of the work that you all did online as well. I mean, obviously I prefer to have people in person, but you know, you can't always get there in person, pandemic or no pandemic. So that work also is, we're just able to reach so many more people. And so I'm very, very excited about this work. It's very important, and it really is critical to give kids access to nature and to environmental education, and it can be life-changing. And so I really, really commend the work that you're doing.
Director Lane.
Yeah, I have a question, and that has to do with what are the future prospects of Camp Arroyo? Because that's always been important to us. And I'm not on operations, perhaps you've talked about it there, but I would like to know when we think we will be able to start those programs again.
Mike, did you want to jump in on that one?
Director Lane, I can't speak directly to the plans for Camp Arroyo, but Camp Arroyo, as Jerry mentioned, if we want to follow ACA guidelines, YMCA guidelines, et cetera, so for the best professional standards, James and Jeremy worked with those and kind of adapted those guidelines to provide this programming. Adapting that to a residential camp is a bigger lift. It's something that the entire profession is working on: family camps, sleepaway camps, kids camps, and such. And we'll be happy to provide you some more information about direct data about Camp Arroyo, but I can't speak to that at this moment. I know that it's a very complicated thing when you have people dining, sleeping together in big numbers, and to make those numbers work financially and programmatically for the folks who are coming. Well, we'd be happy to get you some more information about that.
Yeah, and Director Lane, we also are bound to follow the rules of each of the school districts that we work with for environmental ed programming. So that's another complication with Camp Arroyo, but I'll get you a follow-up on what the status is for this year's environmental ed camps.
Yeah, I think we'd all be interested. So thank you.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of light. I attended the Regional Parks Foundation meeting recently, and we had a presentation from the Wolf School. And they're really gearing up, and it sounds like they are fully booked for 2022. And they're looking into expanding a program with Oakland Unified School District for all the fifth graders. So they're trying to find out a way to incorporate all that. That's all I can recall from that meeting, but it sounds like they're really they're gearing up and ready and waiting. So I think depending on how the pandemic goes, I think we should see a successful program there. And then Director Wieskamp. Oh, you're on mute.
Terrific job, Mike and the two J's and all of the rest involved. I would feel derelict not to mention, I think the visitor center opening at Del Val has been so impressive and people have talked about it. It seems that a lot of families made it out there and learned a lot from that. And so everybody who was involved in that year when you were trying to figure out the programming and put it together, I want to thank you again on their behalf. And I hope that the Visitor Center can be open more in this coming year. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? Director Wasby.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeremy and James, you know, I've known you guys for a long, long time, and I just want to compliment you on your innovativeness and your just doing great things. And of course, when you do great work, I'd like to challenge you. You know, I know you're developing these programs and you're doing so well. I was wondering if there's a chance to work with children of different abilities. I think that's the word we use nowadays, or you know, even schools all have programs, or most schools have programs for adults with disabilities that I think could really take advantage of these type of programs. And so I challenge you to, it might be a little harder, but I think it might be very beneficial if you could look into that.
And then,
I'd be happy to comment on that one, Director Waspy, but our leader, Mike Moran, also had his hand raised and probably can speak to it better than I can.
Actually, well, I was going to talk about the very thing you were going to talk about, James. We just finished up a very successful COVID adapted all abilities day set out at the Big Break Visitor Center at the Delta. Staff out there, including brand new supervisor Wyatt Moore, put together a program that had grown by leaps and bounds the previous 3 to 4 years that we were doing it, and had to really limit that, turn the screws to make that work for COVID. We served over nearly 375 people over 2 days, and both Jeremy's crew and James's crew were part of that program, all built around COVID safety precautions, obviously, and to great success. So the principles, and this is to also speak to Director Wieskamp's point about opening up Del Val, the practices and principles that James and Jeremy's crews have put together really set a template. Just the fact that when this thing started, we thought it's going to be impossible to do these programs. And these two teams took the opposite approach. Okay, so how are we going to do in-person programs? And that set a template, not only of success, but it really brought down the fear and worry factor for other folks who were thinking, geez, should we do this? Is it a responsible thing to do? And not only is it responsible, it's always been very successful and really appreciated, safely done by the public. Thank you.
And if I may add some icing to that, Mike, we picked parks and locations that didn't have visitor centers. So Point Pinole Regional Shoreline, Kennedy Grove, Briones, Martin Luther King Regional Shoreline. We were kind of a public face at those places, giving interpretive programming in person, but then also tabling on the side, because people would always come up to us and ask us, what are you all doing out here? You know, as we're doing our little social distanced hikes. So picking places that were definitely accessible, people were able to social distance and move around, and then also table at the same time.
great, thank you very much. Your programs are just to be it just shows how resilient and talented you and your fellow naturalists and recreation leaders are in providing these programs. My only question is, I'm hoping we are collecting the data to show who we're serving and where we're serving them. I know, again, from the Regional Parks Foundation meeting, I think Salesforce has agreed to assist us in collecting or analyzing data through their Tableau systems, and so I'm looking forward to hearing not only seeing your programs, but also seeing the numbers and the data on that, and seeing how we're reaching out to our communities. So thank you all very much. Well done.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to item number 3. Board and staff reports, and then 3A is actions taken by other jurisdictions.
Thank you, President Rosario. We just have one update from September 14th, and that's from the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors. They were acting as the Contra Costa Fire Protection District on that date, and they approved the annexation of East Contra Costa Fire Protection District into ConFire, which is great news. The merger between the two is expected to reduce the response times by increasing the staffing and the number of fire stations to serve the region. So we were very happy to see that. It's been a long time coming. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Any announcements from closed session?
President Rosario, Carol Victor, District Council, there are no announcements from the closed session.
Thank you. And now item number 5, board committee reports. Any comments on the legislative committee from 8:20? Director Wieskamp, anything to add there?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. And item number 6, board comments. I'm going to start with Director Lane, and then Director Coffey, and then Director Waspy. Director Lane.
All right, thank you. Some of the meetings and events that I've gone to are a closed session that we had for the board with an evaluation of our GM. I had the chance to go to the Redwood Canyon Operations Awards breakfast, and Cass and Bob gave me a ride, which I appreciated, and it was really a wonderful morning. These were awards from last year, and really described in a great way, and people enjoyed themselves so much. We were outside and generally distanced, and lots of masks and lots of laughs, and it was really I'm really always happy to make it to that meeting, and this time it was a breakfast. And then went to the finance committee and then had the opportunity to go to the 2 events in Tilden, which were celebrating anniversaries for Brazil Room and for the EEC. And once again, the opportunity to see people and have a celebration like that, and thank you to everybody for the historic displays, because I particularly enjoyed those. And nice to meet members of Director Eccles' family in a busy day that she had that day. So those were very interesting, but I have to say that the highlight for my 2 weeks was a little mini disaster where East Bay Mud 70-year-old pipe burst in Hemi in Alamo, and it cut off the entire road because it's a dead end. And so there were videos all over, and East Bay Mud had a little problem initially finding out how to turn it off. And one of my PAC members lives off Hemi at the end. So I called her and she said, "Oh, it was a disaster." But of course it was interesting as well. And they did get their water back fairly quickly, and the road is now fixed. I think East Bay Mud responds very well to emergencies like that. But from the vantage point of the regional parks, what was interesting was the way people were reaching Hemi was by going down the Iron Horse Trail. So the Iron Horse Trail became a one-way, well, it was actually a two-way roadway for some time. And I can't remember ever having seen anything like that. So I am anticipating that it might not have been the best use of the trail, since it is not a roadway. And I would expect that we would be reimbursed for any damage to the trail. But I did have a chance to go down and look at the way that was functioning, and quite a unique experience for all of us. And that's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Director Coffey.
Well, thank you, President Rosario. I want to say I was very much engaged in Director Lane's acknowledgement today. And it reminded me that I do my acknowledgements basically on the work of Director Lane. And if you ever want, have an assignment and want to do an acknowledgement for Contra Costa County, Google Beverly Lane and Native American tribes, Contra Costa, and you'll come across a whole number of her publications on the topic, and I've downloaded a number of them. So, thank you for that history you've done as a historian, Director Lane, and I'm certainly using it as I do these today. On the 22nd, I attended a Congressman DeSaulnier town hall. On the 23rd, I attended the annual Sierra Club Bower dinner. I think a number of my colleagues were in on that remotely held event. On the 24th, I attended by YouTube the Finance Committee's meeting for September. On the 25th, I attended the Roddy Golf Course open house and preview of the future Deer Valley Regional Park. It was very well received. The amount of work that went into it to prepare for it and do the presentations around the golf course was tremendous and extraordinarily well done by all involved in that. And yeah, I too went to the, at least I made the Brazilian Room 85th anniversary. I had the Roddy Ranch open house in the morning and so missed the Tilden celebration itself. But yeah, as you can imagine, I had a great time there and very much appreciated all the amount of work that there went into presenting that history, as Director Lane referenced, along with a little picture from 1985 of Milan and me. And then we were recreating that picture. That was a lot of fun. and I don't know how I'm going to use it, but it was a lot of fun. A very well done event, as always, by the foundation. Let me see. On the 26th, Mila and I doing an ambassador gig out at Brioni's Alhambra staging area. We tabled for several hours and asked people to fill out a survey that Public Affairs had prepared on their trail experience that day. And so we had about 50 surveys actually filled out, and Mila and I talked to at least a third more than that, maybe 75 people in total. And I still want to, write out my report for Dave Mason on that. On the 28th, I attended as an alternate the Board Operations Committee. On the 29th, I also attended the Employee Operations Division Awards breakfast at Redwood Canyon. That went very well. On the 29th, I also attended the closed board session on the GM's evaluation. On the 29th, I attended the ongoing Point Malati working group meeting with Director Eccles. On the 30th, I attended the Greenbelt Alliance annual awards dinner, again by remote. And standing out this year is they actually held the in-person event at the Bridgyard building, and they specifically honored the work of Judge John Sutter at the dinner. On the 2nd, this past weekend, I attended the Contra Costa County Democratic Party's annual barbecue in Pleasant Hill. On the 3rd, Mila and I, doing an all-day ambassador gig, attended the Hercules Bayfront Festival, which is an annual event for all the waterfront communities, Pinole, Hercules, Rodeo. There were probably several thousand people through that day. And at our table, we think we talked to at least 200 people. It was a tremendous turnout for that event and tremendous interest in what we all had at our East Bay Regional Parks table. 95% of it was people coming up and extending their love and appreciation for the Park District. And so many stories of those people that we talked to were focused on how important the parks around Hercules Knoll, those and the Bay Trail were so important to them during the pandemic and continue to be. It was just great to experience that and listen to it. On the 4th, that was yesterday, wasn't it? I attended the Contra Costa County dedication ceremony, wherein the county named the still relatively new county clerk recorders and elections building in downtown Martinez. They named it after Steve Weir. Those of you who are familiar with Contra Costa local government would know that from as almost a kid getting on the Concord City Council, eventually being mayor of Concord, going on to work for Dan Boatwright for a couple of decades, and then the county clerk's position for a couple of decades. He's had a tremendous impact on, very positive impact on Contra Costa government, and it was very appropriate that the county named that building after Steve Weir. That was yesterday, and then I also attended President Rosario's planning meeting for this board meeting today. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're quite busy.
I had a busy September, yeah.
Director Waspy, then Director Wieskamp, and then Director Eccles.
Thank you. On the 25th, I attended the Tilden's 85th birthday party and the Brazil's 80th. It was a tremendous event. It's great to get outside and see everybody there. It was a great, wonderful day. All I can say is, to add to everybody else's comments, public affairs, they're incredible how they could pull off 2 separate parties in one day. It was just tremendous, and I want to express my appreciation to them. On the 28th, I had a meeting with General Manager Landreth, Carol Victor, and Christina Kelcher about the Vargas Plateau and the effects of the settlement agreement we have down there with some folks and the future of Vargas Plateau. On the 29th, I attended the Operations Awards Breakfast, another great event, just nice outdoor event. Everybody got together and we had the opportunity to award some of these great folks that are the frontline workers at the Park District and really give them some extra added appreciation for their great work and some of the innovative things they've done in the last, well, we're 2 years behind on this, but it was awards for 2019, if I'm not mistaken, but it was a great event. On the 29th, I also attended the closed session evaluation of our general manager. On the 30th, I had a one-on-one with our general manager where we toured the Chenard Vineyard and the Gelderman property just above the Stonebray and the Hayward Hills, and some opportunities for trail connections out there. On the 30th, I also attended a HASPA, gosh, I don't know what we would call it, probably a rally, come join us with the San Francisco Bay Trail. HASPA's trying to get members to join up, and we all get together with different agencies and say, hey, you really need to join HASPA. It's a great organization. We're meeting with different levels of success, but we're trying to work on that. And that was pretty much it, although I might comment that I spent the last few days in the Eastern Sierra on Highway 395. I was able to go to national parks, state parks, and forest services, and all I can say is we call ourselves the best park district or the largest park district in the United States or the world or the cosmos or however we say it. All we need is a couple 14,000 foot peaks and we would be right there, way better than any of them. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Director Wieskamp.
Thank you. I don't think we can give enough kudos to staff for those wonderful celebrations, 2 on one day. I really think the Brazil room display was magnificent, including the restored chandelier. Maybe we can't do it, but I think we ought to at least give a chance in San Francisco in a public place or at Treasure Island, the chance to see what it was like and how we appreciate the facts about the Brazil room and how it came to be ours at Tilden. On the 28th, I attended the operations meeting. The 29th, the closed session for our general manager review. And I want to thank Sabrina for the letter she sent to Rosie the Riveter, Betty Soskin, on behalf of her 100th birthday. I thought it was an absolutely perfect letter. So on behalf of the board, thank you for that. And when it comes to Camp Arroyo, I would like to know if there's anything we can do to help have some activities going on there. And there's so many young people who enjoyed it so much. I know we'll follow protocol, but I really do believe, particularly out in this area, there are underserved communities, if you believe it or not, from Livermore to Pleasanton, Dublin. And if we could have something that would help them, I would really appreciate it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Eccles.
Great. Thank you so much, President Rosario. So starting with the 23rd of September, I attended the Sierra Club annual dinner virtually with Director Coffey and other folks. On the 24th, I attended the board finance committee. And on the 25th, of course, as you heard, we had both the 85th anniversary for Tilden Park, as well as the 80th anniversary for the Brazilian Room. And both of those events were just fabulous. I want to say thank you to Carol Johnson and the rest of the folks who made those events possible. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, we were also celebrating my mother's 90th birthday that weekend. So it was great to have a lot of my family in town and be able to have them also enjoy the Tilden Park and Brazilian Room events. And then on the 27th, I attended the PAC meeting and provided an update on events around Ward 1. And yeah, it's been busy. So there was a lot to report on. I think my presentation might have gone on a little too long, but then I also was there for the digital learning program update, which was great. Really goes hand in hand with the in-person learning that we talked about today. Is very interesting. There's really some great work going on in terms of environmental education and connecting with more of our youth. On the 28th, attended the board operations committee. 29th, I had my one-on-one with GM Landreth at Albany Beach, and it was just great to be able to, walk along that new trail, and then also just sit and enjoy the view while going through all of our business. And I have to say, 2 hours went by really quick. So thank you for being so generous with your time, GM Landreth. And then on the 29th, attended the Point Malate working group with Director Coffey. On the 29th, attended the special board meeting for GM Landreth's 6-month evaluation. And so that rounds it out for me. So thank you.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet your family. And so Dr. Ellen has had to drop off. And so I'll start with mine. On the 23rd, I attended the Regional Parks Foundation meeting, which I alluded to earlier. On top of the Salesforce announcement, there's if you attended the UN Peace Day, the peace poll that's there, the foundation raised 6,000 of the 12,000 for that poll. And they also received a
Put the paper down.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. I'm halfway in person and halfway on Zoom.
Thank you.
And then they also received a grant, a 2-year grant to extend the Oakland and Richmond Junior Ranger program, which is great. And so the Regional Parks Foundation is an amazing group of people, and they're I'm just amazed at what they do, and I'm really grateful for that board. And in fact, they have a save the date. 11/18/2021 is their annual. They're gonna have a dinner. So I think it's going to be at a dealership, and it's going to be plenty of space. So put that on your calendar. And then from 922 to 923, I attended the National Recreation Parks Association Annual Conference, which was held in Tennessee and attended virtually. It took a little getting used to the different time zones. In fact, I missed one of my programs, but it was incredibly fascinating. I attended the digital access portion, and there's all these different tests that you can put your website on and hold them against and to test them for accessibility. And it's held from the regional. You can get your get the test from the regional ADA center, and it's called W3C. And then there's also I attended the what was it called? Equity in Sports, and very fascinating data on when women are allowed to participate in sports, how that carries over to success later on in life. And then Jose Corona of the Eat, Learn, Play of Oakland program, he had a lot of praise for Nicholas Williams and his work on equity in recreation centers for the city of Oakland. Then I also attended a session on Parks and Recreation in Mexico. And they're just starting their own Parks and Recreation program, and started off in 2008. And they're basically starting from scratch. Their parks have no structure, no funding like we do here in the States. And they're just now getting awareness of their own parks and their own systems and getting funding. So it's fascinating. And then there was an economic, last one was the Trust for Public Lands called Parks as Critical Infrastructure. They have an incredible amount of resources. They've got maps and data on climate maps, urban planning, park, what they call a park view and a park score. Park score is like, they compare how your parks are meeting the needs of the communities nearby. And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has blueprints for equity and low-income communities that already built up, and you can access them right from their website. So I thought something that we could tie into if we don't already. And then on the 25th, I attended the celebration at Tilden. Wonderful. I can't say enough about the exhibits that were at the TNA and the Brazil Room. They were just fascinating and so spoke to the history of the place. And it was really timely at the Tilden Nature area to see Tim Gordon, who just recently passed away, one of the original naturalists, see his picture and his profile there. It was very touching. And I was glad that Dave Zuckerman was there too to help speak about Tim. And then on the 26th, on my other little hat, I led a volunteer trail crew for the Friends of Salsa Creek. We doing some trail rehab there in Diamond Park. And then on the 27th, I attended the PAC briefly, just to speak on behalf of the naming of Crab Cove in honor of Doug Seiden. That passed unanimously, but with some comments. But we'll get into that when that comes to the board. But it was very well received. And then on the 27th, I attended the employees AA Asian American and Pacific Islander group, and we had a wonderful presentation by Wendy Takuda, and she gave a story of her career from college all the way, how she became a newscaster, and she was one of the first Asian Americans to be on national TV, and then her progress into becoming a certified naturalist. It was fascinating, and so I'm hoping I try and get her for my other group. And then the 29th, the Employee Recognition Breakfast was just so wonderful, recognizing the talent that we have here in the Park District and the work that gets put into it, and the pride that everyone has in their work. And it's just great. It's just great that we could celebrate all of that. And then I also attended an Alameda County Asian American Pacific Islander Roundtable, and we had a presentation on the upcoming Afghani immigration. And the Bay Area is going to receive quite a few immigrants from Afghanistan, and it was interesting to hear the plans for that. And it's a huge undertaking, but we already have an incredible Afghani population here already, and that's what they're drawn to. And then on the 28th, I met with AFSCME on individually, met with Darcy and Chris Nui individually. And then on the 29th, we had our special board meeting regarding AB 631. And then we had a closed session for general manager's evaluation. You did very well. And then 9:30, I also attended the Greenbelt Alliance conference, and one of the awardees was Warren Logan of the City of Oakland, who I just briefly got to meet for his work for urban planning and having DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of that. And he and I are in conversation about talking about, I'm trying to get, see if the City of Oakland could possibly rezone some of the areas around our shoreline park, specifically Tidewater, and then possibly Middle Harbor and Judge John Sutter. See if there's possibilities of building communities around our parks. That way we would build instant access to our parks, and it would serve that community so well. So I'm pursuing that. And then on the 1st, I attended the 30th anniversary of the Oakland Hills fire at the Rockridge BART station. And I hadn't realized before, but that venue there is incredibly beautiful. They have tiles all along at the station there. It's all from the Oakland Hills survivors, and it was very well done. Libby Shaft and Dan Kelb did a great job. And what was Nick from our lifeguard services? Nick Shriver. He was now, I was so surprised to see him. He was there. He is now an Oakland firefighter, and very proud to be one. And he looked great in Oakland blue. And then and here we are. My pre-board meeting with Sabrina yesterday and today. I think any other board comments before we adjourn? I would just like to acknowledge our recent retirees that we had in our packet. Brian Hill, Don Fuller, Shushan Robb. We continue to lose talented people, and I just wanted to thank them for their service and being part of the legacy of the East Bay Regional Park District. And yeah, thank you all. And I think I want to thank everybody here today for this trial run. Looks like it ran quite well. I think we were scrambling around. We weren't, but you guys were trying to make sure everything works. And I think we're probably good to go for a live board meeting in October. Great. Congratulations, everyone. I know this was a lot of work and a lot of angst. So thank you all. All right, and we'll see you all live at our next meeting. Thank you. Thank you all.